What is happening, people, and welcome back to the Scarthy Spurs Talk podcast. Today, I'm joined by three fabulous guests. Firstly, Josh Hughes from the Mail Sport. Josh, how you doing?
Yeah, doing well. Nice to get back to winning ways after Fulham. Very happy Easter weekend to everyone, and
Absolutely, yeah. It's great to have you back, Josh. And as Josh said there, happy Easter to everyone that does celebrate. Lilywhite Lane, first time on the show. How you doing?
Yeah, pleasure to be on, mate. Big up to everyone in the chat and on the panel. Hope that you all had a good Easter weekend. I personally did, spending it with the family, and good to be on here talking about the win heading into tomorrow's game.
Yeah, absolutely is. And thank you very much for giving me your time as well this evening. And Travis, how you doing?
Yeah, really well, thank you, Harry. Good to get back to winning ways after that absolutely abysmal performance against Fulham the other week. I'm somewhat happy Tottenham fan at the moment. But obviously, I'm sure as we get onto the questions a bit later on, I'll understand why I'm happy and why I'm not happy.
Oof, looking forward to getting into it. We've got a lot to discuss and discuss Luton, West Ham. Get your questions as always. There's quite a bit to get through, but it should be a good one. Quickly go through everyone listening live on YouTube. Big up Jay, and a perfect reminder for me because he knows I always forget. Channel merch available until the 14th of April for just £25. You'll be able to find the link in the comments. If you can't find it, I'll also copy and paste it there. If you are listening on a podcast platform, don't forget to give us a follow and a 5-star review. And in terms of channel merch, it'll be in the description for you to find. Just put it in the YouTube chat as well. But yeah, big up Jay, big up Barney as well. Big up to anyone else who may be in the chat. Big up Peter. And a load more that will join later. So thank you very much. But let's crack straight into it. And Josh, I'll come to you first. I want to think back before the Luton game. I always find that hard to do. What were your thoughts on the lineup? Because we saw Werner come in for Johnson and Dragusin was preferred to Van der Ven. Any surprises?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, hearing Ange Postecoglou talk about Mickey Van der Ven, you want him to start every game. But with the game, I suppose, against West Ham tomorrow, it proved okay. I think Dragusin, he had an awful game against Fulham. Really was hopeless. He looked like a donkey at the back. And again, against Luton, I thought he wasn't great. But at least as the game went on, he sort of grew into it a little bit. A few nice moments that I saw. And yeah, I mean, Johnson on the bench. I mean, I really like Brennan Johnson, have done for a long time. You know, I was very keen for us to sign him in the first instance because I love watching him at Forest. But, you know, didn't surprise me as such because, you know, he spent a lot of the season on the bench. And, you know, I think I personally, I prefer to see Werner on that left than Johnson on the left. Didn't work at all against Fulham. I don't think it worked that well. I thought he was all right against Johnson was all right against Villa. Pretty promising, I suppose, in the first half and what was pretty drab. But yeah, I was glad to see Werner back on the left. But yeah, I mean, the only thing that gets me, and you know, you'll have to shut me up about this on here because I don't want to be too harsh, but I am not a fan of Dejan Kulusevski in this system on the right wing. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a whole nother thing. If it was down to me, I'd be starting Johnson on the right and Werner on the left. I want to see two wingers with absolute, you know, gas and pace. And Kulusevski's not that. I think he offers very different things. But yeah, it was all right. Went in. I suppose the game was standard, wasn't it? Same first half we always see. Load of crap, really. And then half we sort of often, when it takes something bad happening for us to actually wake up and start doing our thing. But yeah, it was kind of business as usual for Spurs this season.
Absolutely. We should be used to it by now. But as you said there, Kulusevski, we'll get onto individuals like Kulusevski and his role in this Ange Postecoglou system later in the show. So if you are listening live on YouTube or on any podcast platform, don't forget to stay tuned till the end. Robbie, I want to bring you in on this. What were your thoughts on the lineup pre-match?
I think seeing Dragosin in there, it didn't fill me with confidence because the guys only had 45 minutes properly against Villa and then played the 90 against Fulham and didn't look great. But I understood why. I think Luton have got as much threat going forward as West Ham will tomorrow. So I understand why he benched Van der Ven and rested him. In terms of the front three, I completely understood starting Werner. I think Johnson's much better coming off the bench, and we saw it again on Saturday. The one that I was questioning was Bissouma. I don't think the guy's really earned his place recently in the team, and I would prefer to see someone such as Benteke or even Weebia, who's come off the bench recently and had some really good cameos starting the game. And he wasn't great again, Bissouma. Bentancur came on alongside Johnson, and in my opinion, those two subs changed the game. But there was nothing about the lineup that made me really concerned. And as I say, it's probably what we expected from the game. Poor first half, and then we sort of blitzed them with a good spell, which is what we've done a lot this year, especially. Not this season, because we started the season brilliantly, but we've started games quite poorly, then had a good 10, 15 minutes where the opposition can't contain us. And then, as I say, sort of went back down to gear 2 or gear 3. But pretty standard Spurs performance, not the best, could have scored more. But at the end of the day, when all said and done, we got the 3 points. That's all that matters.
Exactly, as you say, that is all that matters. And Travis as well, what were your thoughts on that lineup before the match? Did you want to see Van der Ven? Did you think we would see Van der Ven?
Personally, I think it was a good call by Ange to not start Van der Ven. Obviously, bearing in mind he's just come back from a slight knock, and obviously we need to look at the games that we've got coming up, like Man City, the bigger games coming up in the next couple of weeks. I completely agree with what Robbie and Josh have just said about Kulusevski and Johnson. I think Johnson's more of an impact player, and I think he always seems to play that little bit better when he comes off the bench. And I completely agree with what Josh says. I don't think Kulusevski suits out on the wing. I don't think he suits in that winger system. I think he's more of a central number 10. But obviously, then we've got James Maddison. I wasn't worried when I saw Dragosin in the lineup. It was good to see him starting. You know, when you got the likes of Bayern Munich going after a player, you kind of think to yourself, well, we've got him. He's obviously a decent player. But I think he deserves a bit more game time. I know he has got a lot of competition there, obviously with Romero. So yeah, it was good to see him playing. I thought he had a good game, to be fair. And I think, you know, it just needs a few more games to obviously improve and to start playing the way obviously Ange wants to play. But I didn't have any worries seeing the lineup. I'm more concerned with the whole 90 minutes, to be fair. I think it was just typical Tottenham, to be fair. You know, we always struggle against the smaller teams, whether that's Luton, Wolves, Fulham, you know, and it's the same Tottenham every time. So yeah, that's my bit really on that.
Fair enough. Thank you very much, Travis. And Robbie, I'll come back to you because the first goal of the game was scored by Luton. It was a counter-attack after Kulusevski lost the ball. It was scored by Chong in the end. Barkley got the assist. Townsend played a really big part in it. Should we have done better defensively for you, or was it just like a well-worked goal from Luton?
I think a bit of both, to be honest with you, mate. I think it was a well-worked goal, but then again, our positioning for it was quite poor. But what's frustrated me is we started this season, and in first halves, we looked a lot better. And that was something over the last 2 years that's really frustrated me, that the manager always has to give the players a kick up the arse at half time to get them playing. But start of the season, those first 8-9 games, we were starting as the better team. We should have put games to bed by half time. But this year and recently, we're starting games poorly again, sloppy in the first half, and again the players are needing to kick up the arse from the manager to step up in the second half. But as I say, I think it's a bit of both. I think it's a fairly well-worked goal, good finish from Chong, but at the same time, we've given him far too much space to allow him to shoot from there.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I completely agree. Josh, where do you stand in terms of Luton's first goal? Are you with Robbie in terms of it's a bit of both? It's poor defending by Tottenham and a really well-worked goal from Luton.
No, it was just awful from Tottenham. Top to bottom, it was just atrocious. From Kulusevski having the option of 3 players to pass to or get a shot away to, I don't even know what you want to call that. It was just whatever it was just, yeah, terrible. And then the next phase of play, I mean, we've all watched Andros Townsend play for Spurs. we know this one move that he does every single time down that right, which is this little sort of jink, and then he goes and tries to push it past the player. He does it every single time. He used to do it for Spurs every time he's on the pitch. And then the player that I really want to get stuck into for this, Yves Bissouma. Do you know what? It was. I don't want to be harsh because I didn't think it was the worst performance in the world, but it was disgraceful at the back. I mean, to just lazily put one leg out, and it was lazy. That is the only thing that I can say. It was lazy. It was amateur. It was Sunday League. It was whatever you want to call it. It was stick one foot out and expect. There was no attempt to actually win the ball. It was a poor attempt to track, and then a really half-assed sort of attempt to try and block it. Townsend gets past him with ease, and Townsend's not the player he was in terms of pace anymore. And then I felt really bad for Pedro Porro because Pedro Porro came probably inches to blocking it. And apart from that, I'm not sure what else we could have done. I think once the ball actually went in, yeah, Barkley did well. It was quick thinking and a lovely finish from Chong. But as much as we can say it's well worked, I mean, it looks better because of how poor we were. And these are the moments where it shows how much we rely on Mickey van der Ven, because it's that moment where if we lose the ball attacking and we get countered ourselves, I mean, it was similar to some of the goals we conceded against Wolves. It was the winner, wasn't it? The Nunez winner against Wolves, where we went down the other end. And I think West Ham, there was one of the West Ham goals was a bit like that as well. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I thought we were actually not that bad in the first half. And I thought Luton, to credit, Luton gave us a good showing. But, I saw a comment there, someone saying, Bissouma isn't a left back. But, the system is such that someone needs to fill in. And normally that's Mickey van der Ven, because Udogie gets so high up the pitch because he's part of the attack and he's in this sort of inverted position. And the same thing happens often with Pedro Porro, where, they both take a high, almost like a central, like left central mid or right centre mid position. And then they sometimes get even further forward. So, yeah, I think there's an argument to say, okay, well, Udogie should be tracking back. But at the same time, he's been given that tactical instruction by Ange Postecoglou. So you'd assume that if he consistently doesn't track back, but he's playing every game, there's a reason why perhaps he's not. And often I think that's Mickey van der Ven. So yeah, I think Ange would have to explain that sort of tracking back and stuff, because I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. But yeah, it wasn't great, was it?
No, it certainly wasn't at all. Fair enough there. Travis, I don't know if you saw, but in the first half, 14th minute of the game, Werner had a big chance where I thought he'd done well, but he put his shot just wide. Should he be scoring that for you?
Yeah, I mean, being the calibre that Timo Werner is, and I know he is from when he was playing at Chelsea to playing at RB Leipzig, of course he should be scoring it. Any striker should be scoring it, really. But yeah, of course. I think with Werner, personally, I think we should buy him. I think 15 mil is an absolute steal for Timo Werner. I don't know how old he is, but I think he would be a good asset for the club. And I think, again, another player, give him time to sort of work in a different system to what he's played in his last two clubs, obviously with Ange. He's an attacking player and wants to play attacking football. But yeah, he's a goal scorer. He's a known goal scorer. So I've got no concerns with Timo Werner, and I don't mean that on a biased level because I rate the player. I think he would just be a great asset for the club.
Okay, no, fair enough. I'm in full agreement with you. Josh, I'll come back to you. Again, focusing on the first half. In the 19th minute, we saw our press win the ball back. I think Luton were a bit too casual with possession. We saw Son take a shot that hit both posts, and we had a Sarr, a deflected shot, etc. How did we score that?
Yeah, I mean, there were moments that game. I think actually, in fairness, as much as we made a few serious mistakes that game, we really should have come out of it about 4-1. With some of the opportunities we had. I have no idea how it didn't go in, but actually, to be honest, I think Son has to do better. A player of Son's quality and his finishing ability should be putting it in the back of the net, shouldn't be coming off the post at all. It should just be going straight into the back of the net. It was unlucky, and I don't want to completely blast him, for it. But I think at the same time, a player of Son's quality, I would expect to score that. And then it coming off both posts, I mean, it was just one of those moments where you sat there or stood there in the ground thinking, it's not going to be our day, is it? We're going to have one of those afternoons. Thankfully not. Thankfully we pulled through. But yeah, it was one of those things that, yeah, again, like I suppose like most first halves, we always have at least one, maybe two really good opportunities to score in that first half. I'm talking about this sort of pattern that we've had of not scoring in the first half. I mean, we really should. And it was just another one of those afternoons, wasn't it, where we had a couple of really big opportunities. The Werner one as well, and on another day, their goals.
Absolutely, yeah. You do think, is it going to be your day when that type of moment happens? Luckily it was, but yeah, you never a good feeling, especially when you hit both posts with the same shot. Sometimes not even done in the same game, so that was crazy stuff from a few minutes. So, Robbie, come to you next, because Luton were 1-0 up at half-time at the break. Were they worthy of their lead for you? And what did you make of Tottenham's first 45 minutes?
Do you know what? As sloppy as I think we were in that first half, Josh just said it there. I think we probably should have been heading into half-time winning. The Werner chance, the Son chances, a few times we put. Even in those first few minutes, right before their goal, Kulusevski going forward. We had moments in that first half that we should have done a lot better going forward. But in my opinion, we were far too sloppy, far too casual. And yeah, we had all of the possession, but when you watch a team like Manchester City or Liverpool have the possession, it's constantly going forward, where a lot of our possession is Romero to Vicario, to Romero, to Van de Ven Johnson, to Romero. And I just think we were far too casual, a bit sloppy on the ball. We created chances. And to be honest, at the end of the day, all the respect in the world to Luton. They headed in at half-time 1-0. They got their early goal and they defended well. But at half-time at home against Luton, we should be winning. We're Tottenham Hotspur. But I think Luton were fairly good in the first half. I thought we were fairly sloppy by our standards, but still should have been heading into half-time ahead.
Okay, fair enough. Half-time, we saw Brennan Johnson come on for Kulusevski. We've all kind of, I think, blasted Angie's subs at times this season. I think some of it, has been right to do so. But would you say, Travis, in this case, he got his substitutions right? And what you done at half-time? You made any more changes? Because obviously it wasn't a good first 45 minutes. You're on mute.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, I absolutely think it was the right decision to make with taking Kulu off and putting Johnson on, because like I said earlier, Johnson is an impact player, and he always plays that little bit better when he comes on. I'm still yet to see two strikers playing together, and I'd love to see Werner and Richarlison up top, and just dropping Sonny to the left wing. I'd love to see how that works. But yeah, as we've said in the past, Andrew hasn't always been 100% spot on with his changes, and he's he's a formation, but yeah, his subs have always been probably not 7 to 8 out of 10 most of the time. So
yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Josh. Would you say Ange Postecoglou got his substitutions right? And what would you done at half time? Would you made any changes? Would you been patient?
Yeah, I think actually, I think a lot of fans, there's been this debate, hasn't there, amongst our fans, certainly on Twitter /X, whatever you want to call it, of this plan B, right? And what it means, this plan B, is it a case of, is it tactical? Is it changing the way we play? Is it the system? Is it players? What actually does plan B mean? And a lot of people saying, you know, Ange doesn't have one. Well, I think that making changes when something's not going right, being more ruthless, especially after he sort of idly watched and didn't do anything when we were being ripped to shreds by Fulham. And by the way, that was lucky to be 3-0. That should have been about 6-0. You know, he learned his lesson and he got it right. So as far as I'm concerned, yeah, I think Ange did really well and he needs his props for that because, you know, for all the criticism he's had, certainly by our fan base of this lack of plan B, he saw it wasn't working. Kulusevski was just stinking the place out so bad that something had to change. And Brennan Johnson comes on and he does what a winger should do. It's funny having a winger that actually takes a man on and gets a cross in and uses both feet and runs at players. Funnily enough, it's crazy that something happens at trying that at multiple times in a half. I remember Aaron Lennon used to do it, you know, back when I was like sort of, I would have been about 10 years old, 10 years old, probably a bit younger than that. You know, and he used to do that. That was all he kind of had to offer, which was run with pace and get balls in. And more often than not, something happens. But actually, do you know what? Something on Brennan Johnson, because I've heard this kind of, he's better as an impact player. And I thought that, but actually, I'm not sure if I agree with that because a lot of the time when Brennan Johnson starts games for Spurs, he starts on the left, doesn't he? Rather than on the right. So Kulusevski's the kind of piece that always stays in the team when fit. And actually, I think, you know, if I was Postecoglou, and I'm sure you'll probably get onto this anyway before we talk about West Ham, but I would be going with Werner on the left and Johnson on the right. That pace made a difference. Having two wingers that really, you know, go at players. And this is the thing. A lot of people were slamming Werner, giving him all sorts of stick after the game, mainly because of the misses, I guess. But even if you watch that winning goal, the work that Werner puts in, the way that he links up with Son, and it is that front three that I would like us to play with. It's Son, it's Werner, and it's Brennan Johnson all involved. So yeah, I think it made a huge difference. And also, actually, big shout out to Gio Lo Celso and Rodrigo Bentancur. When I was talking, when you first asked me about the team, I forgot that part out because I actually did say that to my mate that was with me and then to my dad when I saw him. Bentancur, for me, is still the best midfielder at the club by a mile. He's got to be starting when fit. And I think that the other thing that I kind of thought about, and obviously, you know, everyone kind of groaned a little bit, I think, at Sarr being taken off. But one thing I always thought about was when's the best I've seen our midfield play this season? And it was actually that first half against Aston Villa before Bentancur got kicked out the game by Matty Cash. And the three that we started with was Sarr, Bentancur, and Gio Lo Celso. And Bentancur played as a six, but a progressive six, someone that was, I don't really like using all these kind of academic terms, but he was lying deep and he was playing the ball through the middle. He was playing killer balls, you know, in behind, over the top, whatever it is, and allowing Lo Celso to kind of do the kind of free roaming and a lot of the forward passes, which he does. And, you know, I think, to be honest, it wasn't working with Maddison either. Maddison isn't taking up this 10 position that we've all kind of become accustomed to him playing. He's playing really deep. He's having no impact on the game. So, you know, throughout that second half, I think Ange, he made the right calls at the right times. And that is ultimately, I think, what turned the game around.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Robbie, where do you stand in terms of Postecoglou's substitutions? Did he get it right? Because he's got a lot of criticism. I think, as I said, rightly so at times. But did he get it right against Luton?
Look, I really like Ange. I really do. I think he's done a really good job since joining Spurs. But my one criticism of him has been his substitutions. I don't like people saying that he should change his system because Pep didn't do it when he first came and Klopp didn't do it. And it's how you instill tactics into players and the system, and so the players learn it. But my one criticism has been the substitutions. and his timing of them in certain games. I thought he got them absolutely bang on, to be honest, against Luton. I thought Bentancur for Sarr at the time, I was questioning it. I thought he maybe should have came on for Bissouma. Bentancur changed around the game in the midfield. He was bossing it, played some great forward passes. At one point, he was on the right wing, ripping in a great cross. And then you're looking at Brennan Johnson as well, who came off the bench. Look, I'm not one of his biggest fans, right? I criticise him sometimes because I'd like to see him put in these performances when he takes on the top sides in the Premier League. But you've still got to come off the bench and make an impact. And he has done it a lot this season. I saw a stat that he's got the most goal contributions out of any player coming off the bench this season in the Premier League. And again, in a game when the chips are down, in a game when we're behind, he comes on and contributes to both goals. I thought both substitutions made a massive impact on our team. Both changed the way that we were playing. And I thought Andrew got it spot on, to be fair. I'll criticise him when he, in my opinion, he gets things wrong with his subs, but I thought he got it bang on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in full agreement with you once again there. And do you know what, Robbie? We'll stay with you because we start the second half quickly. And in the 51st minute, we saw an own goal by Kabore. Brennan Johnson making an instant impact once again, as we've discussed. Was it the perfect start to a half for you, Robbie? Is that just what you envisioned?
To be honest, it's probably what I expected. We've done it a lot this season, with poor first halves. You come out in the second half and scored an early goal. We did it against Brentford, against Wolves, even though we didn't go on to get the win on that day. And we did it again against Luton. And I really thought, okay, we're going to kick on, probably score another one in the next few minutes. The fact it took another, 30 minutes to get the winner, I didn't expect that. But it was the start that we needed to the half. As I say, Johnson coming on, making an impact, playing a part in that first goal. I really like the guy coming off the bench. And yeah, in my opinion, it's exactly what we needed. And if we don't score that goal early in the half, who knows, the way that game could have turned out. I think that was crucial for us.
Absolutely, I completely agree. Travis, I'll come to you as well. In the 86th minute, as Robbie said, 30 minutes in between both goals. It is a long while because in the 86th minute, Son's deflected strike hit the back of the net, which made him also the 5th top goal scorer in Spurs history. So firstly, how happy are you for Son? So talk about me, about him individually for me, and also the goal. What was your feeling when the ball hit the back of the net?
I think Son is just an outstanding person, let alone footballer, and I think, and I've said it before, South Koreans are extremely, they stick by their guns, and they're loyal. They're the most loyal bunch of people you could ever meet. So yeah, and I think, you've only got to see the way he is, obviously, when that fan ran onto the pitch. He takes the time to talk to people. He'll sign people's shirts at the training ground. He'll sign people's shirts before a game. He generally takes the time to talk to people, and he's just a great asset to have in the footballing world in general, I think, and a great role model for the younger generation. So I love it when Sonny scores. You can see how much it means to him personally, and yeah, I hope he stays at Spurs forever because he's just a top person, even without the football. So yeah, I'm proud to have him at Tottenham.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I think the loyalty he's shown is something else as well. Josh, I'll come to you in terms of that second Spurs goal. What were your feelings when the ball hit the back of the net? I mean, always backed us. I don't know about you to come away with 3 points, even though what we've seen. But half an hour between two goals, it was getting a bit touch and go, wasn't it?
Yeah. Do you know what? I've always got faith that we're going to score a late winner, when it's like that and we're at home, because we've done it so many times. And I suppose that's testament to the team's character. And, this is something that we're not used to seeing. But when that ball hit the back of the net, I don't know what it is, but this season I'm not celebrating goals as much the way that I used to. I used to celebrate goals. For example, if we scored under Conte or Pochettino, I would be going absolutely mental.
You reckon that's VAR, mate? The worry about that ruling it out?
No, not at all. Not at all, because I think I'm far too I think I'm far too kind of passionate a person for that anyway. But I think what it is relief. That's the overwhelming feeling that I'm getting. I mean, I say I don't celebrate goals crazily. I mean, I absolutely do if it's a last minute winner. I did against Sheffield United and I did against Liverpool and I think against Brighton as well. But other than that, it's kind of more just like big exhale. Okay, thank goodness. Because it's very, very, very kind of cough and splutter and limp to victory at the minute, and it has been for a while, for a number of months. So, yeah, I think if we start battering teams or getting the goals that we deserve or that our play warrants, then I think I'd probably be a bit more kind of crazy when we score. But it for me, it was just kind of like Luton have 10 injuries, key players are missing, and we're not going to beat them when we need to win every single game to even have a chance of finishing fourth this season. You know, excluding the obviously the Arsenal, City, and Liverpool game. Yeah, so it was one of those where it was kind of more relief than anything. But as I say, at the same time, it might sound like I'm contradicting myself. It's this team. They have really, really late goals in them all the time. And for that, I mean, it's a great one for the club in that fans won't be leaving early, I don't think, because you always know something's going to happen right to the final whistle.
Yeah, value for money, that's for sure. That's one thing I think you can say. Travis, it finished 2-1 Spurs. Did we deserve it for you? What were your thoughts on our overall performance across that 90 minutes? Are you concerned in any way?
I thought the performance was as boring as it comes, personally, to give my honest opinion.
Fair enough.
You know, 3 points is 3 points, and you know the way Villa are playing at the moment, we drastically need them. So yeah, obviously, any Tottenham fans happy to get 3 points, but the overall performance was just so lax and so boring and just so, probably best word to describe, probably lethargic. You know, I understand players have just returned back from international duty. I get all of that, but it wasn't that many games, and I don't know. We look like we're just, some games we don't even turn up and we look like we're just running ourselves into the ground. So what's that like? Anne says when the other team stops, we don't. Yeah, but we stop before the other teams. We're normally the ones to give up first. But you know, no, it wasn't a great performance. But yeah, obviously happy to get the 3 points.
Absolutely. Robbie, do you feel the same in terms of, you know, the performance didn't set the world on light, but we came away with 3 points and that's all that matters?
Yeah, I agree. I think when you look at the amount of chances that we created, shots on target, when you take a look at all the stats in that game, we probably deserved the win. But then again, you come into a game playing Luton Town at home with the amount of interest that they've got, expecting to win by 3, 4, or 5 goals. And that's no disrespect to Luton, but they don't have that much quality in their side. We've got a fully fit team, the same team that went on that 8 or 9 unbeaten run at the beginning of the season that were taking teams apart. And I was just quite disappointed. I was disappointed that we had to, get that second goal. And like Josh said earlier in the show, it was almost relief, if anything, Sonny scoring that Sonny scoring that second goal and giving us the win, that we weren't going to get bantered over the next few days back not winning against a B-side Luton. But look, I'm just glad that we got the 3 points. And I head into these next few games, the West Ham one and the Forest one. Both are going to be very, very difficult. Both tend to play a low block and counter-attack with quick players, which has been our kryptonite a lot this season. So you look at that Luton game now, it's a big 3 points, especially with coefficiency looking like it could get us Champions League, with Man United being 8 points behind after that absolute shower of Pygmy Hippo. I don't want to swear and demonetise your show, Harry, but yeah, it was horrendous from United. So look, 8 points clear of them. It looks like we may get Champions League through coefficiency. And yeah, there were sloppy things in there, poor performances, but there were also good ones, and it was also a win that I'm not going to complain about. It's 3 points.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I want to focus on a couple of individuals. And the first individual I want to focus on is Timo Werner. Josh, I'm going to come to you first. So I want to know your thoughts on Timo Werner's performance in that Luton game and the win. But also, should we sign him in the summer? And give me the stats that you've got based on Werner.
Yeah, look, it's a debate that's raging on, and people are basically saying, no, we shouldn't sign Timo Werner because that 15 million should be going to someone better. He's not the answer. He can't finish, etc., etc. I've heard it all before. Where I stand on it is, I think we should sign him, but I'm probably asking too much of Daniel Levy and being unrealistic because we know what Levy's like. And as far as I'm concerned, we should be signing Werner and another left winger, Nico Williams, who has a £43 million release clause. And that should be, the competition that we have. And we should be having two quality options on each flank. For me, Werner brings a lot of experience. He's a player that I think people forget that he's had the hardest run of his career, right? And I think people forget that this is a guy that at one stage, everyone wanted him playing for their club. My boss is a Liverpool fan and he was desperate for Liverpool to sign Timo Werner, and he went to Chelsea. And as it happens with a lot of players that go to Chelsea, they absolutely ruin their careers. I suppose you can argue he didn't because he didn't do too badly there and he won a Champions League. But at the same time, players that go to Chelsea and then leave Chelsea quite often, they don't seem to be able to replicate the form that they had before they came to Chelsea. It's not quite, for some reason, right? For 15 million, I don't think you're going to find a player with more experience, more European experience, and international at this stage. There's no chance. People telling me Morgan Whittaker at Plymouth, who's an impressive player, but no Premier League experience, let alone European experience. We've got to think about this realistically because we will be playing in Europe next season, 100% certainty. We will be playing at least Europa League, most likely now Champions League football. And speaking of, this is something that I think people kind of forget about Timo Werner. And these are my stats, which is actually Werner compared to Son in European games. And this might surprise you a little bit. So let's start with Sonny. Sonny has played 80 games. He's scored 29 goals with 12 assists. He's won nothing. And his only individual honours in European competitions is he won the Champions League set-piece goal of the season in 2014-15. And at the start of next season, he's going to be 32 years old. Werner, he's played 55 games, 21 goals, 10 assists. He's won the Champions League. And he got into the Champions League Breakthrough 11 in 2017, the Europa League squad of the season. And he will be 28 at the start of next season. He's only just turned 28, just before the Villa game. So when you actually add that up, Son is a player that has played 25. Is it 25? Yeah, 25 more games in Europe. Only has 8 more goals and 2 more assists. In what I would say is a much better team in Spurs and has played with much better players at Spurs than Werner would have played with at Leipzig for the majority of that. And I think that that's just something to think about. And I know stats, it's not everything, but, people always like to use stats against Werner for his lack of goals, etc. But when you look at his overall contribution, his actual impact on a game, he's a live wire. He causes problems. So for me, it's a no-brainer. As far as I'm concerned, you get Werner, you get another winger. I think Nico Williams is the best option for a good price at 43 million, but you've got to be prepared to pay the wages that the other big clubs would be prepared to offer him, because there will be a bidding war for him. That, well, I suppose there'll be a negotiation war for him, no doubt. I actually think the tough conversation to be had here is about Heung-min Son. And this is no, criticism of Son as a player, but he's 32 at the start of next season. And at what point are we going to keep him at the club and then lose him for nothing, or are we going to cash in on him and use him?
What would you do, Josh?
Else? Controversial as it is, I think I'd cash in. And the reason I would cash in is, and people are going to maybe call me crazy for saying this, but as much as I don't want to be like Levy, we have to play the Levy game, because he is, funnily enough, our chairman, and that is how he rolls. So do we want to sell Son and make a profit on him and use that towards, say, a Nico Williams or a Kvaratskhelia, or a player of real quality that can be our next kind of left-wing sort of dynamo for the next decade, as Son has so brilliantly been? Or are we going to keep Son there and only buy Werner? Because this is the thing. I can see a situation where we only buy Werner and we keep Son, and that's enough. And I don't think that is enough going into the Champions League. And if we want to start, being the club we all aspire to be and competing for the top trophies, I think I would still keep Son at the club and buy a winger.
Okay.
But I feel like something's got to give somewhere, and I can't see, as much as I can't see the club selling Kulusevski, and I can't see the club pulling much money out of anywhere else. So, and Jay's just put Nico Williams, Werner, and Gibbs White, or Eze, or Elise. Yeah, I would love Elise on the right and Nico Williams on the left, and Werner as well. I think that would be incredible. I think Morgan Gibbs White and Eze are incredible shouts as well. Yeah, I think it would be one of Morgan Gibbs White or Eze. I think would complete that midfield. But it highlights the problem, right? We need a one-on-one specialist, and for me, I think you either move Kulusevski into a 10, or he's one that you should be looking to move on, because does he fit the system? And there needs to be a conversation about that. And this is not me criticizing Kulusevski as a footballer. I think he's a brilliant footballer.
We will get on to him.
Do you see where I'm coming from? There's huge conversations to be had this summer, I think.
Absolutely. And thank you for your opinion, but also the stats behind that, Josh. Thank you very much. Robbie, talk to me. Timo Werner, should we sign him in the summer for you?
Personally, I don't think so. Look, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and Josh, mate, I agree with a lot of what you've just said. But for me, I think a majority of those good statistics, goals, assists in Europe before he joined Chelsea, he had a chance to prove it in the Premier League. And whilst he was liked by Chelsea fans because of his work ethic, in my opinion, big missed chance after big missed chance after big missed chance. And at the highest level, when you're missing those kind of chances, in my opinion, it's just not good enough. And I think it depends on what Spurs want to be as to whether we should sign Timo Werner or not. If we're aspiring to contend for top 4 in Europe over the next few years, sign him. But I want to see Spurs in this rebuild eventually progress into contending for titles, contending for trophies. And I think if you want to do that, you can't rely on an attacking player who just doesn't finish his dinner. I think we've seen it a lot this season where his work ethic's been there and he's contributed very well to play. But he's gotten massive chances and missed them. And these big missed chances, when you're trying to contend for trophy, let's say we're trying to go for the league title next season. Maybe it's slightly unrealistic, but let's say we're trying to go for a league title next season. If he's missing these chances to not get us points that we're creating for him, those points could be the difference as to whether we win something or not. Same in big finals. And in my opinion, as I say, he was so good when he was first at Leipzig. He really was. What he was most wanted for was his finishing ability. He came to Chelsea, whilst he won a Champions League, he really didn't do a lot for Chelsea that season. I think he scored 11 goals in 2 seasons in the Premier League. And then he went back to Leipzig, wasn't that great. And he's joined us, and obviously he contributes to play. You look at his goals, they're not the most, aesthetically pleasing finishing or finishes in the world. And I just think if we want to be contending with the big boys in Europe and in the Premier League, we've got to be going for better quality, in my opinion. If we're contending for Champions League, Europa League, I understand it, but I want to see Spurs contending with the big boys. And in my opinion, if we're going to do so, we need to be looking at someone like a Nico Williams. You mentioned him, Josh. I think that guy's fantastic. Elise, Eze, those sort of players who are Premier League proven, have done it in the Premier League, and can make a difference hugely in the Spurs team.
Absolutely, I completely agree. Obviously, Travis, you gave your thoughts on Werner earlier and in previous shows, so I'm going to ask you about Kulusevski. So, firstly, you came off 45 minutes against Luton. So, what do you think of him in that game? And generally, at the moment, do you think questions need to start being asked of him? Would you be looking at offers for him in the summer? Would you change his position? What would you do in terms of Teejay and Kulusevski?
I wouldn't start looking for offers. I think that's very harsh on Kulusevski if they are going to start asking for offers from different clubs. I think that's very harsh after, obviously, when he come out about he struggles with his football and his personal life. I think he plays better in a central midfield role personally rather than out on the wing. I think Brendan Johnson is the number one can't think of the words. Candidate for out on that wing. Personally, I don't think Kulu really fits Sanji's system for that. But yeah, I wouldn't sell him, and I wouldn't even listen to offers. To be fair, I think the only thing with Kulu is he slows the game down an awful lot. He's one footed, and he's so predictable as well. And you know when he's going to cut in. Who's this bedtime? What do you think of Tottenham? Who are these people on this show?
Sorry, keep going.
I just saw that and I'm thinking, yeah, definitely a gooner. Yeah, so I think Kulusevski is a good player. He's shown he's good, but yeah, I don't think he fits that winger role for Brennan Johnson. Is the number one target for that. I would play him more in a central role, but then you've got a lot of competition as well. See, with James Maddison, but then you could get onto the conversation about James Maddison. I thought he's absolutely atrocious against Luton personally. But again, he's another player that's come back from international football. But you can't keep giving these footballers excuses. They're professional footballers. But yeah, I don't know. It's very hard with Tottenham, isn't it? It's very hard being a Tottenham supporter at times, as we all know, because on paper, that team could beat any club any day. So, I think Kulu's got a lot of decent ability, and I think he's a good footballer. But as I said, I just don't think he fits the system at the moment. It might change over time. I don't know, but every player for that team blows hot and cold, no matter who it is. Basuma started off really well. He's now gone off the boil. We could sit here and name so many players that aren't playing how they should be playing at the moment.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Thank you very much. Robbie, where do you stand with Kulusevski? Would you be listening to offers for him in the summer? Would you change his position? Do you keep going? Do you think people are being reactionary even? Talk to me, Kulusevski.
I agree with what Josh said earlier in the show and what Travis just said. I don't think he fits into this system very well. He was brought in under Conte, and what he did so well was hold the ball up when we were trying to counter-attack teams, play it to Kane, who would then play some NFL quarterback unreal pass to Son. In this system, he just seems to slow things down. We're trying to play quick one-touch pass football. It's not working for him. It's not working for him. And funny enough, his best spell this season was when he played as an attacking midfielder. When Maddison was injured, he went to the Etihad and bossed Man City, made Rodri look like a right twat. Same as in other matches. And I just think, as I say, he's much better in that position. I think if a good offer comes in for him, we should accept it this summer. I do think we should accept it. And by good offer, I mean probably 50, 60 million. And I think we could probably get that for Kulusevski because he's still fairly young. If not, I'd be happy to keep him, but more so as someone who can transition with Maddison, playing that attacking midfielder role. And I think if you've got that as well, he puts a little bit more pressure on Maddison to put in these performances. Because you're looking at Maddison, he's putting in these performances, but then who's going to come in when he puts in a bad performance? He's got no real pressure on his place in the team. Lo Celso's not going to come in because he's so injury prone and hot and cold. As I say, sometimes he looks like he really wants to be there. Sometimes he looks like he can't be bothered. I just think if a good offer comes in, we should listen to it. If it doesn't, I think he'd be a lot better transitioning with Maddison in that attacking midfielder role than he is on the right wing, because he just slows things down, in my opinion. He's very predictable as well. That's one more thing I will add. He's always constantly using one foot. So use both of them, mate. Use both of them. But look, that's my take on it.
Okay, thank you very much, Robbie. And before we move on to West Ham, Josh, talk to me, Kulusevski. Obviously, you said in the chat there, the private chat, that Kulusevski doesn't suit the system. What makes you think that?
Because you know, I don't know if it's for me to say, he fits the system, doesn't fit the system, or us as fans, because I suppose only Ange knows what he wants out of it. But I'm not sure the inverted aspect of his game works, because what happens is we're constantly playing teams who put 10 men behind the ball. And the only way to beat that type of team is to run at players, because you naturally drag players out of position. And that creates the pockets of space that the likes of Son and whoever can fill. When Werner runs at players at pace and it drags defenders, and it does, because the one thing we can't criticize Werner for is when he's running at defenders, he looks a live wire, looks dangerous. He does, I'd say, probably 95% of his game is there. It's just the finishing. But when Werner does that, is Kulusevski picking up those pockets of space? No, he's not. When Kulusevski has the ball, is he beating a man? Yes, he does, but probably for me, one in every sort of 10 or so games. I'll pick a couple of examples. Nottingham Forest away, absolutely brilliant. That kind of performance. And again, actually, Luton away, Kulusevski caused them loads of problems. But I'm cherry picking individual performances where he's done that, because consistently he's not. He's not. So for me, I really like Kulusevski because he's really physical. He's got a great work rate, and he's clearly a very gifted footballer, proper footballer. He's only 24, I think. So he's got a lot of years ahead of him. He's got a lot of time to learn and improve. He's certainly, I don't think, the finished player. However, he's come out consistently and said in the past that he feels he's a number 10. In Italy, when he started his career out at Parma and he was at Atalanta, he was playing in that kind of role and he was excelling in that role. He then got moved out to the right wing. And I think actually the places where he was at his most effective in that 6 months of which I actually think is part of the reason he gets a hall pass from our fans. He kind of took up a lot more central positions under Conte in that 6 months where we did get Champions League football and Conte came into the club. But actually, I think let's think about this first 6 months of Kulusevski where he was brilliant. Since then, it's been 2 seasons where his numbers are yet to beat that first 6 months. That first 6 months, he was so good that I think that people seem to think that that's him as a player. And actually, we've seen since then, the last 2 seasons, he's not replicated that at all. Now, I think he is a very good player and a useful player. But I'm also trying to think about Daniel Levy and how he operates. And you probably, we could get about 80 million by qualifying for the Champions League. And then it's going to be player sales, because if Daniel Levy can do it, he'll try and operate without spending a penny. And I'm looking at our squad and who's actually going to command a significant transfer fee. There's not a lot of players that will, because they've either not had the game time or their contract situation means that, for example, Højbjerg, who I think in the past you'd be able to get 30+ million for him potentially, you're looking at 15 million as a generous fee because of his contract. So, yeah, I suppose for me, if the opportunity came up to get an Elise or someone that is, that type of player that can compete with Brennan Johnson, I think I would use Kulusevski now, and I would say, okay, I could hopefully get about 50+ million for him, and use that to rebuild the squad and really, buy a player that is going to suit the system. And I know it seems harsh and it's not reactionary. This has come out of months of observing him and really liking Kulusevski. I really like him, but I just don't see how this suits the system. And if we're going to really back the manager, we need to give him players that are going to make the most out of the system. However, I suppose Ange keeps picking him every week, so he's the one that's going to ultimately decide.
Must be doing something right. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Josh. Obviously, I know you have to go soon. So we will move on to West Ham now. So, Josh, I'll come to you firstly. How are you feeling ahead of the game? And talk me through your lineup.
Difficult game, really, really difficult game. West Ham are hot and cold. They can be really good, especially at the London Stadium. Obviously, they bottled it against Newcastle. And it's a game that we don't tend to do very well in. West Ham away this time of the season, when we're playing for something, it's normally not a very good equation to be in. However, I'd like to see us change things up a little bit against West Ham. So I would go Vicario, Porro, Romero, Van der Ven, Udogie. That sounds like we're changing it up. Bentancur, Sarr, Lo Celso. Then I would go Werner, Johnson, Son. I would go with still.
Okay.
And then look to bring on Richarlison for Werner at some point, change it around, and then we've got the ability to do what we need to do in midfield and stuff. I would go with a slightly different approach. I would take Maddison out of the equation. I think they're preparing for Kulusevski. They're preparing for Maddison. So, yeah, let's bring a surprise on them tomorrow and bring hopefully a little bit of renewed energy into the team.
Let's
and then
hope so.
We can win.
Let's hope so. And lastly, Josh, your score prediction.
Oh, my goodness. 3-2 Spurs.
Love it. Love the positivity. Where can people find you, Josh?
At Josh Hughes TV on Twitter. I've just joined. There's this thing called Playback now. I don't know too much about it. It's kind of like interactive spaces. So going to explore that a little bit and possibly be on there as well.
Thank you very much for giving me your time this evening. Have a good one. Thank you.
Nice to meet you, mate.
See you later, guys. Take care.
See you later. Thank you, Josh. Perfect. So, Robbie, I'll come to you next, actually. How are you feeling, firstly, ahead of West Ham Tuesday? I mean, 2 games in 4 days. What would your lineup look like as well?
I'm not going to lie to you, Harry. I'm not looking forward to it, mate. I'm not looking forward to it. And that's not necessarily because of Tottenham. It's because I see West Ham setting up the exact way we would want them to. Parking the bus, sitting back, playing narrow and counter-attacking us. I can't speak this evening. With pacey attacking players. Mohamed Kudus, Lucas Paqueta, Jared Bowen. I think all 3 of them we've got to keep an eye on. They're very dangerous players. And yeah, I just think we need to rely on finishing our chances in this game. I think we really do. I think in terms of the lineup, goalkeeper and back four would be the same. Vicario, Udogie, Porro, Van der Ven, Romero. That's pretty much nailed on now. I'd go with a bit of a curveball. I'd go with Bentancur, Sarr and Maddison in the midfield. Now, personally, I'd put Giovanni Lo Celso on the left. I've seen that he can do it a lot for Argentina, and he can play well in that position. I think he offers something different. I'd personally play Heung-min Son down the middle, and then Brennan Johnson on the right. I think Johnson's a lot better on the right, so I'd give him a chance to start off. If he doesn't perform well, keep him on the bench and have him come off or come on in games and make an impact. I understand the shout for Richarlison, but for me, he's slightly too slow in this game. You want pace, you want creativity, tricky players going forward. And I think Lo Celso, as I say, I'm not his biggest fan, but I'd prefer to see him than someone like Kulusevski. I'd prefer to see him than Richarlison, to be honest with you guys. But yeah, it should be it should be an interesting game. It should be an interesting game. Score prediction, I'm going to go with 1-1. I think West Ham have got a lot of quality. It's at their place. They beat us at ours, but that was more us shooting ourselves in the foot. But I do think we've got some quality players as well. I think we're going to need to rely on the likes of Heung-min Son finishing their dinner this Tuesday. It's mad that this game's coming tomorrow, and it feels like we're only just finishing up reviewing the Luton one. But yeah, I'm going 1-1. Should be an interesting game. If someone's going to win it, I hate saying it, I think West Ham. But no matter the result here, that Forest game on Sunday is massive, especially if we drop points here. When you look at the 4 games you've got after that. But look, Harry, mate, I'm going to have to shoot off. It's been an absolute pleasure coming on. Great to meet you, Travis and Josh as well.
Thank you very much. Where can people find you?
Over at Lilywhite Lane, all types of Tottenham content on other channels as well. You might see me pop up occasionally. But yeah, it's been a pleasure, lads. Hope everyone has a great rest of your Easter.
And you. Thank you very much, Robbie.
See you later, guys. Take care.
All the best. Bye. And Travis, it's just me and you now. So talk to me, West Ham. How are you feeling, firstly?
Listen, West Ham don't like us and we don't like them. It's for me, it's the same as the North London derby playing that lot. It's still the same intent. It's still the same nervous feeling. Everything you feel in North London derby. They're the 2 main games I hate every single year. I dread playing them. But it all depends, obviously, what Tottenham turn up. I'll go with the same lineup to what Robbie just said. I would love to see 2 strikers. I'd love to see Richarlison and Werner playing with each other, but I know that changed the system. I know it changed the formation, but I'd love to see Werner and Richarlison playing together. But I'm going to go 3-1 Tottenham.
Love the positivity. Absolutely love it. For me, as you said, it's you dread it. You know how much it means to West Ham, and obviously beating us twice this season, including pre-season. So I don't think it'll be easy. They showed a lot of fight against Newcastle, but ultimately they collapsed. That's a nice way of putting it, if not bottles it. But they'll be keen to fight back. How much energy they have in the tank, I don't know. So with my lineup, I'd probably keep Johnson on the bench, and I really, really like him. I think that, however, where West Ham tire, he'd be the player I bring on, and that's what I like Brennan Johnson for. It's been absolutely fantastic. So my lineup would also be Vicario, be a Doggy, be Porro. I'd go Van der Ven and Romero, put Van der Ven in there. It's a big game, and hopefully he's ready. I guess we'll find out. Bentancur for me will come in for Basuma, and you keep Sarah and Maddison in there. Then the front 3 for me would be Werner on the left, Son on the right for a change, and Richarlison down the middle. But that front 3 can alternate. And I'm someone who was a big advocate for signing Brennan Johnson and a big advocate for getting behind Johnson. However, I really like him as opposition tires, and I think this will be the best to use him. But guys, if you are listening live on YouTube, get involved with your lineup in the comments below. But I'm not feeling confident at this moment in time. But Travis, I'll move on to the question I always ask on every show, and that's how many points will we get for our next 3 games? So our next 3 games as follow: West Ham away, Forest at home, and Newcastle away. I'm going to kick it off, and I feel like I've been really negative saying it, but I only think we're going to get 3 points. Are you more positive than me, Travis?
I am, to be fair. I think we're going to get 6 points. I think we're going to beat that lot. We're going to beat that lot tomorrow and get 3 points from West Ham, and I strongly think we'll get 3 points from Forest. Newcastle. Are we away or at home? Did you say? Sorry, Harry.
Away.
We're away. Yeah. St James's Park is a very, very hard place to go to. It's the same as going to Old Trafford, really. Obviously, I know United obviously aren't at the top of their game at the minute, but it's the infrastructure, it's the fan base, it's everything else that goes along with the football. And I just, Newcastle at home are just so good. So I think I'd like to get at least a point from Newcastle. I'll take a point now. I really would against Newcastle. But yeah, I think we're only going to get 6 points from 3 from West Ham and 3 from Forest.
I think I'll take that. West Ham, I think we'll lose to them, sadly, the 3rd time this season, 2-1. You know how much it means to them. It's their game of the season, their cup final. That'll be really tough for us. Forest, I think, will be quite nice. We're not necessarily comfortable, but I think we could keep a clean sheet. So that is 3 points. Newcastle away, as you said, hostile. And we've got a few of them to come, Stamford Bridge, Anfield. How can Tottenham cope? See, us, Travis, as much as I think this team's changed, a real big tester, how far we've come in less than 12 months. Will be really interesting to see how we cope with going to, because last season we saw, obviously, I think completely different Tottenham to what we see now, but we collapsed at St James's Park, and we collapsed in the first 15-20 minutes at Anfield, and the first 18 minutes at St James's Park, where I think we found ourselves 4 or 5-0 down by then. So that for me is a big mentality test. Travis, obviously, a regular on the show, so you would have been asked this before. But today, do you think we'll finish in the top 4? Why not?
I've not really got an honest answer. Obviously, being a biased Tottenham fan, obviously, yes, I'd love to see us finish in the top 4, but I think Villa are flying at the moment, and I can see Villa just scraping it. And I think I said in one of your podcasts last week, Harry, I wouldn't be happy with Europa. I know it's an income, I know it's another trophy to win, but we're not the sort of team that needs to be in Europa. We need to be in the Champions League. The team we've got, the manager we've got, it's just that is just it for me. And I don't think Europa would be right for where we are at the moment. And as you quite rightly said there, compared to how we're playing now to how we was playing last year, obviously under Conte, the change is huge. It's massive. And we lost Harry Kane's Bayern Munich, and honestly thought we'd be mid-table at best after losing Harry Kane. But Ange just come in and just completely changed the dynamics of the team. He's really he gets it, and I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this tonight. He just gets the Tottenham way, and I don't think he's the sort of guy who'll go around, listening to what Levy's got to say. I think he knows what he wants to do. He's got a plan, and he wants to win trophies. I know every manager wants to win trophies, every team wants to win trophies, but Ange he's the man for Tottenham. He really is, and I never thought I'd say that. He's the best manager I've seen for a long, long time.
I completely agree, and I think we've seen glimpses this season, Travis, which really show why we should all get behind him in terms of the long-term project. Start the season, went toe-to-toe with Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, drawing 2 and beating 1, which was Liverpool. So that, for me, that's really impressive. And they are, at the moment, the best teams in the country. And we all know there's no secret. There's a big gap from Tottenham to the likes of Manchester City, to Arsenal, to Liverpool, especially while Klopp is still there with Liverpool. I don't know yet next season, but still a big gap. And it pains me to say it, especially with Arsenal. But it's all about reducing that gap. And I think, give it 2-3 years, that gap will really reduce to Postecoglou. And I think we can compete with them. We get the transfer windows right, like we have in the last 2 windows, and add a little bit of experience, and a little bit of proven quality, if you like. And I really back us. I really do. But before we get to the questions that people put forward for the podcast, so thank you for your patience, and we give a Scarfy's personal FPL update. I want to discuss something that happened during the international break, especially as I've got you on, Travis, obviously being a huge mental health advocate. And you know that we'll always make time for mental health discussions on the podcast. So I want to know your thoughts on Richarlison's interview. For people who don't know, in his interview, he opened up about his struggles with his mental health, with depression, how he's really, really going through a tough time, with questioning himself, his existence, and what he's doing in professional football. So, Travis, what do you make of the bravery of Richarlison, and has he saved lives with what he's done?
Yeah, massively, and I'm glad you've actually asked this question. To be fair, Harry, and I think to have an actual video to obviously express how he's really feeling on the insides, and he's obviously in some quite distress in his video. I think it's massive, and I can't. I can't emphasise it enough how important it is to talk about what's going on inside your mind, especially as a man, because men don't talk about their emotions and their feelings. And there's help out there, and if you are listening and you need help, just go and get some help, and I think listening to what Richarlison was saying, the help helps him, and it helps him from doing things that, suicide and doing things that aren't right, and I talk from experience with my own battles with depression and anxiety. I've been under the mental health unit countless amount of times, and it's being a man. It's the first biggest step with the journey of mental health, and I say to everyone, there is light at the end of the tunnel. There really is, and everyone's journey is different, and everyone deals with it in their own individual way. But to open up and to talk about your loved ones, the closest people to you, about what is going on inside your mind, can just make a huge difference, and it's so important to talk. Medication helps. I'm on medication myself to get me through everyday life. They don't cure it, but talking does. It really, really does. So to listen to Richarlison talk about his struggles, and I think there's such a stigma around mental health, and I know there's people out there that bark that, oh, he's a professional footballer, he's got a massive income, he's got nice cars, it means nothing. It means nothing, and your mental health comes before anything. And I think it's just, imperative and so important. I can't stress enough how important it is to talk about what's going on inside your mind, whether you're male or female, and you'll get there, and Rich will get there, and I'm sure he's getting the help that he needs, and the support network I'm sure he's got from his family to his friends to social network, wherever it may be. And it's the invisible illness, and it's a silent killer. I could go on forever, but there is help out there. So if you need help, then I'm on social media. My Twitter's always on, and there is numbers out there you can call, and the right people are there to support you.
Yeah, very nicely put, Travis. So thank you very much, and thank you also for opening up, about your own experiences. So thank you very much for doing that on the show as well. So thank you. And in terms of Richarlison, absolute credit to him for opening up, and I do believe that he has saved lives by doing so. And I think the stigma and the thoughts around, because they're professional footballers and because they're earning so much money, that they can tolerate abuse like a kind of like a shield, if you like, and kind of not suffer from things, or they should kind of crack on for it. All that mentality. We know footballers earn a lot, and probably too much. I think we can all kind of agree that, but that has absolutely nothing to do with it here. Mental health is something that will probably affect everyone. It's a serious thing, and it does need addressing. And as I said, absolute credit for Richarlison for opening up. That was a really inspiring and motivating interview. And I think that makes people think before they start calling up players, before they start tagging them in posts. And we've seen it so many times at Spurs, so many players. Porro had to deactivate his Instagram account last year. Richarlison, Dyer, Sanchez have all gone through periods where they've had to deactivate their account because it's too much for them and their families. So we'll always make time for mental health on the podcast. But thank you very much, Travis. But we will move on. So the Scarfy Spurs Talk FPL update in my league, Harry Scarf's league. Mickey Race remains top, has created a 3-point gap, so big up Mickey Race. Second is Tommy C, very strong, cemented second position as well. Third is Mark Sweeney. Fourth is Sean Holder. Fifth, Luca Fania retains fifth. Ted McCoy falls to sixth just by singular point. Omar Yaron up to seventh. Tom Carr falls to eighth. Rob Perry up to ninth. And Kaya got in 10th. That is the top 10. The likes of Will Savage, Lewis Godfrey, Matty Spears, Luke Charlton, and Robin Mumford just outside the top 10. It's all to play for. And we've got now 119 people in the league. I'm 93rd, but at least I've got up to this week. I'm not doing very well. Absolutely awful. Do you do FPL, Travis?
Do you know what I used to back in the day? I used to do at the work clock and that. We always used to put in a certain amount of money, and I'd never win it, so I gave up. I'm only doing it to win it, so I never won it. So I thought, I'm not going to bother.
At least you're honest. In it for the price. Love it. Absolutely great. We'll move on to the questions that people put forward for the podcast. So once again, thank you very much for your patience. Barney says, firstly, what are your hopes for next season based on a good transfer window? What will be classed as success or failure next season for Spurs? Good question.
That's a great question, and thank you for your question, Barney, as always. I think we just need a serious transfer window, and I'm talking about big names, and I know Josh and Robbie said some names earlier, as in Elise, Eze, Morgan Gibbs White. I think they're three great potential signings. I don't know how old they are, obviously how much they would be, but I strongly rate Rafinha from Barcelona. I always have done, but again, he's coming from a different league. He plays in I don't know, but I've always rated Rafinha. I think he'd be a great asset for Spurs, and his attacking player. He scores goals. But as for the transfer window, we just need a serious transfer window if we're going to go places next year. We need some, and I know we say it so many times, but we need some silverware. We need to win a title at some point before I'm dead anyway.
Do you think it will happen next season? If you had to put your neck on the line, is a trophy coming next season?
Yes, I believe it is. Yeah.
So do I.
I think it is. Yeah, I think now Andrew's had this season, let him settle in a little bit more. I think next year, I've said this for the past 3-4 years, this is going to be our year. This is going to be our year. But
not going to lie.
But I think with Andrew Postecoglou and how much I rate him and generally as a man and he's a great coach. I think we will go places next year. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in full agreement with you. Thomas says, what's your starting midfield for tomorrow? So for West Ham, obviously, you're giving your lineup. So if anyone who did miss it, that midfield three you had to go for. Because obviously they've got quite a few options. Basuma hasn't been performing. Bentancur has last few games. So what would your three in midfield be?
My three centre mids would be Sarr, Maddison, and Bentancur.
So Madison Bentancur, yeah, I'm in full agreement for you. Yeah, I like Basuma. I defended it at times, but at the end of the day, he isn't performing. Bentancur is. Football's tough. In you go, out you go, Basuma. So that'd be for me. And I'm going to answer the last question from Luca. What would your front three be for tomorrow? For me, I'm not one of those people who goes, we need to get Kulusevski out in the summer. Of course, if a good offer comes in, like with any player at the club, even Shin-Min Son and top players, you'd listen to any offers if they're good offers. But I wouldn't, I'm not one of those, let's get him out. Because I think that, he probably doesn't suit this system. He suits a counter-attacking system more, which seems strange. He hasn't got the pace, but his coolness, his calmness does suit a counter-attacking play. Keeps hold of the ball really well, drop of the shoulder. But in an attacking system, I find him quite predictable. So he falls to the bench for me. Werner has to be there on the left. Son obviously has to be in that team, and I'll bring Richarlison in. But it's between Richarlison and Johnson for me, and whether Son stays in the middle. But I don't want to see Son in the middle, personally. I want that physical presence against West Ham to challenge the two centre-backs like Zuma. So that would be what it looks like for me. But that kind of wraps it up nicely for today's show. So big up, chat. Thank you very much for listening live on YouTube. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It's free to do so. If we can get to 2K by the end of the season, it'd be a big push. That'd be massively appreciated. If not, the end of 2024 will also be a good achievement. Smash the like button. If you're listening on a podcast platform, don't forget to give us a follow and a 5-star review. And pause this episode and go to YouTube, search Scarfy Spurs Talk and smash that subscribe button. If anyone is interested in the channel merch and is listening live on YouTube, then I'll drop it in the chat once again. Or if you are listening on, like I said, your Spotify, your Apple Music, Anchors, Apple Music, it will be in the description. But it's now, if you are listening live on YouTube, it is in the chat just there. And check out, we've got England, Premier League and Tottenham content, pretty much daily content at the moment. The Premier League show will be Wednesday, 8 p.m. Where host Orist is joined by a couple of guests who are yet to be confirmed. So it should be a good one. But Travis, thank you very much. Where can people find you? Yeah,
absolutely brilliant show again, Harry. I don't think I've had one bad show of you since being a regular on the show, to be fair. It's brilliant.
It's been great.
It's been so good, and I'm looking forward to the upcoming podcasts that we've got. You can find me on Twitter or X, whatever people decide to call it now, at Official Caster. Obviously, normally moaning about Tottenham.
Love it.
As you're aware, Harry, I'm starting my own YouTube page soon for mental health awareness within children and adults.
Yeah.
And again, like I said earlier, if anyone's listening and you are struggling, please give me a follow on Twitter. I'm always happy to have a conversation about what you're going through, and I'll help you out as much as possible. Thank you again, Harry, for talking about Richarlison. It's so important to talk about mental health within football and within life in general. So really enjoyed tonight.
Yeah, absolutely is. And thank you very much, Travis, for giving me your time like you have throughout the season. It's been an honour to have you as a regular on the show. So thank you very much for that. And like I said, big up, guys. You can follow me there, HarryScar22. But most importantly, go check Travis out. Support his new channel when it is out. Hopefully, we'll be doing something with him with that. So definitely 100% get behind that. Check out the channel merch for just £25 available to the 14th of April. If you're interested, and go check out any other content on the channel. And obviously, as we always say, up the Spurs.
Up Spurs.
were working as a manager at Celtic Park when we met you. We picked you out, you shook us up and turned us around. You've turned us into something new. Ange Postecoglou, you know that we believe it when you say you're gonna change it. Ange Postecoglou, we're the mighty Tottenham and nobody's gonna stop them. Oh, we look so fine in blue and lily white. And then he said to me, I'm from a land down under. Postecoglou, baby. Postecoglou, oh. Postecoglou, baby. Postecoglou, oh. Postecoglou, baby. Postecoglou, oh. Postecoglou, baby. Postecoglou, oh.